So my name's Colin. I'm 28 years old, and I'm coming from Dallas, Texas. And sort of the reason I'm visiting Dr. K is a couple different things, but main reason is a ton of brain fog. I played football in high school, had a lot of concussions, and had a pretty silly background, as most kids that age do. Drank a lot and drugs and you name it, and probably did quite a bit of some level of damage. And so chief complaints are a lot of fatigue, basically chronic fatigue for the most part. ADHD, so relatively tough time focusing, and brain fog. I do have autoimmunity, so some myelin basic protein I think was found recently, and previous diagnosis of Hashimoto. So kind of to sum it all up, main chief complaints, a lot of fatigue again, brain fog, and a lot of GI issues. I've tried to work on that as best I can, but just chronic GI complaints, I would say, for the most part. So the things that have helped would be, I started implementing the paleo diet probably maybe, gosh, how many years has it been? Maybe 8 years ago. And that was really kind of like my first journey into kind of like the alternative health sort of route. That definitely helped. I think a lot of the symptoms that I was dealing with, like Hashimoto's, like swollen neck, swollen joints. I mean, when I first got diagnosed with Hashimoto's, I just ballooned up quite a bit. And so implementing the paleo diet, that was at that point a game changer. So that was helpful, and I still do that now. So autoimmune, paleo, tried the carnivore diet for it was about 2 years, but the past, let's say 4 months, I started adding veggies back in. But so the diet piece was really helpful. Obviously, I don't drink anymore, do any of that stuff. That's been a long time. So that was obviously really helpful there too. And then just trying to implement a lot of the principles that Datis teaches. My wife and I went through so many of the courses just as like a patient, and they've been so critical. So implementing like the neuroinflammatory principles from the neuroinflammation course has been really key. Flavonoids, and so those things seem to help a lot. Like expectations on kind of while we're here is probably nothing like super groundbreaking, but I think what we found is like if we can get just like a subtle tweak or just a slight change or just some principles that we might be missing, like, even the basic ones like Datis was talking about, which is like, hey, before you start to crash, there's kind of like a period of, you sort of intuitively get to know like when your threshold is, and so maybe try to pull back from that when it comes to work. And so for us, really, I think if there's subtle tweaks we can find, or maybe just certain things we're not seeing that we can implement. So whether it's like, quantitatively like a 5 or 10% change, it's kind of hard to measure, but nothing drastic. But I think at this point, any benefit is good. Yeah. And then in regard to time frame, it's longevity, right? So it's like I totally get a lot of things take time, and even just like the discovery of learning about neuroinflammation and learning those concepts is probably like, for me, like a year-long process just to try to wrap my head around that whole model and how it works. And so for us, it's longevity. So if it takes a year, it could take that long, but we're sort of in it for the long haul. So, yeah.